Part 2 of Thursday's video. Unless you are choosing to watch this on Friday, then this is part 1 of Friday's video. So moving on to point slope. It is a formula. So if you can apply the formula, you're doing pretty good. We're on page 18 in your notes. Okay. So your point slope formula is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. And the x minus x1 goes in parentheses. What does this mean? Well, it's where you pick any point. We label that point x1, y1. And your slope. If you have those two things, you can use this formula and write a formula for the line. So here we go. Let's do some examples. And I'm going to skip these directions for a second, and we're just going to start basic. So here's what I do. I take these points and I always label them x1, y1. Just like when we're calculating slope, it just helps me out. x1, y1, x1, y1, x1, y1. I think that's all I'll do today. The slope, of course, is m. So let's just start by writing this in point slope form. Y minus y1. So it's y minus 1, because that's what y1 is. And that equals my slope, which is 2. And then in parentheses, I have x minus my x1. For now, I'm done. That is point slope form. Let's do another one. Y minus my y1, which is 4, equals my slope, 1/2, times x minus my x1, which is 2. Again, that is point slope form. I'm going to come back to this in a second. It gets a little trickier. You'll notice up here in our equation, since they're negative, that everything always ends up the opposite. You have a positive 4, you have a positive 1, and here it becomes the opposite, subtracting 4, subtracting 1. So as we get down here, when we mess with the negatives, it gets a little trickier. But basically, if you always remember that it's the opposite, you're good to go. So y minus y1, 0, equals my slope, 2/3, x minus, and the first time I'll do it like this, minus a negative 6. So that's my point slope form. And now I simplify. On this one, if I want to leave it in point slope form, I'll leave this 0, because that tells me that my y1 is 0. These two negatives become a positive. So if Mr. Whitman or the problem asks you to identify the points in the equation, what are your points? Well, your x1 and your y1. It's always the opposite of what you see. So it's a negative 6. Of course, it tells us that right there. So instead of a positive 6, you don't write positive 6. It's the opposite. And then in this case, it's a 0. So over here, a little quicker, y minus a negative 1 becomes a positive 1 equals my slope, negative 3/4 times x minus a negative 8. Two negatives become a positive. And that's point slope form. The reason I keep writing point slope form PSF is because if we go back up to the directions here, that says write all final answers in slope intercept form. Remember, slope intercept form is y equals mx plus b. We are going to do this for all even answers. So change your directions. So if I come back, and I'm going to do all of these just to show you guys. But here's what we do. We always have to, and I'm going to erase my m there so I got room. First step, we always distribute. Always distribute. What is half of negative 2? It's just negative 1. So I drop this down. 1/2 x. Again, half of negative 2 is negative 1. And then I add 4. So I end up with 1/2 x. Negative 1 plus 4 is a positive 3. I've now switched to slope-intercept form. So like I said, I'm going to do this on all of these a little quicker. Distribute. This just drops down the first step. 2 times x is 2x. 2 times negative 4 is negative 8. Add 1 to both sides. Y equals 2x. Negative 8 plus 1 is 7. Now I got slope intercept form. What is 2/3 of 6? 2/3 of 6 is 4. So y, because that already simplifies down, so I can actually do this one in one step. That just, 0 disappears, you guys know that. 2/3 x, 2/3 of 6 is 2/3 of x, 6 is 4. That's slope intercept form. Last one. 3/4 of 8. If you guys can't do some of these in your head, you can come over here to the side. 3/4 of means multiply. So I do 8 over 1. 3 times 8 is 24. 4 times 1 is 4, 6. And because there's a negative sign there, y plus 1 equals negative 3/4 x minus 6. And then I subtract 1 from both sides. Y equals negative 3/4 x minus 7. We're finishing this worksheet 5 through 16 all. Okay. Odds, you do point slope form only. Evens, you start with point slope form and then you convert to slope intercept form like I did here. That is it. 10-minute video for your second video on Thursday or your first video of Friday. Have a great weekend, guys.